Free trade in booze. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. I know Gerard Comeau, never met the man, but he's becoming one of my heroes. Comeau's the New Brunswick man who, rather than pay a fine for buying beer legally in Canada and then taking it home, well, he's fighting back against an overzealous liquor commission. He was in court last week to say that fining him for buying beer in Quebec, then driving it to his house in New Brunswick, is actually unconstitutional. In court in New Brunswick last week, Comeau and his legal team argued that charging anyone for buying beer in Canada, buying beer that's made in Canada, and then taking it to their home still in Canada is actually a violation of Section 121 of the Constitution, which states all articles of the growth, produce, or manufacture of any one of the provinces shall, from and after the Union, be admitted free into each of the other provinces. That and Section 91 of the Constitution stating that the federal government is in charge of regulating trade and commerce, that should be good enough to get Comeau off. But we know that provincial governments have been trying to stop trade between the provinces since Confederation, even though ending those trade impediments, well, that was one of the reasons for implementing Confederation in the first place. New Brunswick actually limits residents to bringing back just one bottle of wine or spirits from another province, and you're only allowed about 18 bottles or cans of beer. Now, a quick look at the prices in New Brunswick might tell you why people like Comeau were going to Quebec. We'll pick on Coors Light, probably the best-selling beer of the country. In New Brunswick, the government store charges $45.95 for 28 cans. You can get 30 cans in Quebec for about $30. In 2012, Parliament, with support from all parties, in fact it was unanimous, passed Bill C-311, which dropped a federal ban on taking booze between the provinces. Now, this was a repeal of a law passed during the Prohibition era, but never really enforced in decades. But few provinces took up the challenge. Here in Ottawa, lots of people head to Quebec to get cheap beer just across the river, and lots of people from Quebec crossed the short bridge to buy cheap wine here in Ontario. They could be breaking the law. In fact, I just found out I've probably broken the law more than once. See, Ontario limits you to a little more than 3 bottles of spirits, a case of wine, and 3 cases of beer. I've been asking provincial bureaucrats what the fines actually are. I'm still not sure because, well, they're bureaucrats and they don't get back to you very quickly. Gerard Comeau lost his 14 cases of beer and was fined $292 for buying a legal product in Canada and then taking it home. Now, I asked Prime Minister Stephen Harper his thoughts on this Monday during a campaign stop in Ottawa.
That's why we brought in federal legislation. It does require mirror legislation at the provincial level. A couple of provinces have proceeded with similar legislation. Not all have, but obviously I would, in my campaign mode, nonpartisan way, urge all provinces to adopt that legislation.
I'd be willing to bet that Tom Mulcair and Justin Trudeau would say the same thing. But the question is, will any of them actually force the provinces to stop these practices? No Canadian should face legal sanction, not even a fine, for buying a legal product and moving it from one part of the country to another. Comeau wasn't opening his own beer store, and even if he was picking up a few cases for friends and neighbors, big deal. I could buy 5 beds or sofas or dishwashers in another province, more than I need for my own use, and no one would bother me if I bought them in another province and then brought them home. It should be the same with booze. In fact, it's time we had free trade in all matters inside Canada's own borders.